here's Brody Brazil.
Okay, Utah, it's time for me to be upfront with you. You know, front. Like the Wasatch Front. You knew I was going to say that. And I promise I'm going to stop including that dumb joke in all my videos, but on the other hand, I'm kind of proud of the local knowledge and geography that I've got a better grip on now that I've been making so many videos in the last couple months about Utah. Let me admit that. I mean, I think we're all aware of that, but it's kind of interesting. I never would have expected that this is where the YouTube channel would have taken me in the last couple weeks and months, doing so much content about Utah. But that has obviously brought a lot of questions in the comment sections of my videos and on other social platforms. Why are you talking about Utah so much? Are you moving to Utah? Are you rooting for Utah? Have you ever even been to Utah? So the course of this video is going to bring what I think are all the answers out there of the questions that have been posed to me about Utah. Let me just try and sum it all up by saying this. A confluence of different events and the sequences in which they've played out. There's been a bunch of things between hockey and baseball and sports and arenas and logos. All the things I'm interested in have kind of centered in Utah and in Salt Lake City, and that's brought me to making a bunch of different videos. So let's begin with some of the questions I get, starting basic. Have you ever even been to Salt Lake City or Utah? By the way, no, I'm not from there. And yes, I've been there, but only once or twice, and maybe for 1 or 2 nights. It's been quick. And I've flown over Salt Lake City a lot, and I'm generally aware of the geography, but no, I have not spent hardly any time in Salt Lake City. And so I want to point that out too as I make these videos. That's why I try and connect with people in Salt Lake. I try and get the perspective. I'm trying to pay attention to it, observe it, and get all the different opinions and backgrounds and history that goes along with it as I deliver some news and opinion about the sporting scene in Salt Lake City. So to answer that question, no, not hardly enough to really understand it. For example, and this is kind of why I got into the Arizona Coyote side of things, I have been to Phoenix and Arizona a bunch of times over the years, and obviously Arizona becoming Utah in the NHL, that kind of led me to doing so many videos here on YouTube. So yeah, so why so many videos on Utah's NHL team lately? I will say this, it's not just, I'll say it, the Yeti. It's not just the future Yeti. It's also the baseball situation in the state of Utah. At the end of February, the state legislature passed $900 million times 2. So $1.8 billion, half of it going to the NHL/NBA project, either fixing up Delta Center or building something new. Seems like they're going to fix up Delta Center for the NHL. And the other $900 million going towards a Major League Baseball team's stadium near the State Fair Park if it can be lured to the state of Utah. So that's why. Like, the money happened, the approval happened in the course of the NHL, the relocation happened, and so that's why I've been doing so many videos. And again, to go back on the Coyotes part of it, I go down there a bunch. In fact, I happened to be down there this February when things were starting to brew and get interesting, and the money part was getting squared away in Utah, and there was some uncertainty about the Coyotes and new renderings and buying the land from the state auction. All of that started to come up while I was down there covering baseball. So I'm paying attention to all this stuff, wondering like, how's this going to work? And should I cover some of this on YouTube? And it was at the very same time where I decided to diversify this YouTube channel a little bit. So that's why I've been doing so much content, because of the baseball situation, but more importantly, the NHL situation and how a perfect example exists now. They got the money, they had the ownership group, they had the building and venue and facility, and they poached a team. I mean, I don't know what other words to use. I realize that comes with a negative connotation, but Utah was patient. They were diligent. They had their ducks in a row, and when it was time to capitalize, the Smith Entertainment Group, they went for it. So that's the reason why I was fascinated with the Coyotes, been covering hockey for a long time. Coyotes went to Utah. That's why I'm there. The baseball thing in tandem with it. That's why I'm paying so much attention. Oh, well, since we're here, do you think there's a chance for Major League Baseball in Salt Lake City? I think there's 900 million chances of why that could happen. I don't know if it's going to be an expansion situation. I certainly think that baseball is going to want to go one out east. And if that's Nashville, which has been very much talked about, then What's out west? Salt Lake City. Now, I realize there's elevation and altitude, and how do you build a park, and do you really like Denver? Because this would be Denver 2.0. But I think what baseball is looking at from an enticing standpoint is the demographic of the state of Utah, which is small, and we'll get to that later on too. But there's a lot of corporations there. There's public money. There's an ownership group, the Miller Group, which is obviously trying to lure in a baseball team up there. I would not be spending time and attention if I didn't think there was a chance that, like, Utah is seriously a frontrunner for getting something. Maybe even one of the teams that has some uncertainty right now. The Oakland/Sacramento/ maybe eventually Las Vegas Athletics. The Chicago White Sox want a new stadium quick. What if that doesn't happen? Tampa Bay Rays, they're in the middle of all this stuff, but nothing is assured that they're going to build right next to Tropicana Field. So Salt Lake City is probably paying attention on multiple fronts. Not going to do it here, Wasatch Front. But they are paying attention to these things because they are primed and ready to go. They've got a shovel-ready site for a Major League Baseball stadium. Will I visit Utah anytime soon? I would love to. Who wants to invite me? Who owns a brewery up in Utah that you'd like to invite me to? Who has a 5-star hotel I could stay at? You see what I'm doing here? I'm trying to get myself a free trip. No, I don't have any immediate plans. I would like to. I've got a couple other places like on my radar for things I'm going to do and places I am going to visit. So I can't say like, well, I'll be there next week or next month or next year. But Zion, I'd like to go visit Zion National Park. That's in Utah, right? So I will. I definitely will. And I will say this, if baseball and or hockey, I mean, hockey's for sure there, it's probably going to make me cross paths with Salt Lake City or Utah sooner. And that's another thing I should say. I mean, all the places I've ever been, most of them, I mean, I feel like I go on vacation some places, but I go on more diverse trips, like different places more times because of work, right? And a lot of baseball cities and a lot of NHL cities. By the way, I'm thinking of my last couple work trips: Scottsdale, Arizona, Nashville, Tennessee, Las Vegas, Nevada. Party capitals of the world? Are they trying to kill me? But I would like to add Salt Lake City onto that short list in the very near future. Will I keep making Utah sports videos? That's a good question. I'm making them because things are happening. Like even with the NHL team. They're still the Coyotes to me, but now they've got, well, I would say a new name. They've got a new identity. They've got a new logo. I'll probably eventually do some videos on how they plan on fixing up Delta Center, like the total upgrades, but also make it good for hockey. So there's a lot of like stadium logo, jersey type things I'm interested in. To be very honest, after they have a permanent name and their building is set up permanently, I don't know. Maybe. I'm not opposed to it. I just think right now with so much change and transition, until it kind of settles down and becomes something normal, then I don't know. Look, it's the same way I'm still going to make Arizona Coyotes videos. I'm no dummy. We're in the beginning of June. In about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, we're about to have a state land auction down in the Phoenix area, and we'll finally find out if Alex Murillo wins this land, wins this acreage that he can build, maybe, a new arena on, and maybe get the Coyotes 2.0, or maybe he runs into some political issues because he also wants to make it a theme park district where he doesn't have to pay for property tax or income tax, and he gets to collect all the sales tax on the site. So again, I got connected to these teams in these situations, and so I'll continue to cover them. But when like the hockey thing in Utah kind of gets more normal, I don't know. Maybe if you all want me to, let me know down below. Maybe I will. But there's also the whole baseball side of it, and we're just getting started. Like Utah got the NHL. The baseball thing, like the iron is hot. It's not scorching. It's warm. The iron is warm on this, and it's only going to get hotter as time goes on and more things happen and more opportunities present themselves. Do you think Salt Lake can host 3 teams? I will say this, for as much as I cover the story, and I'm not trying to lose any viewers or make subscribers mad at me, that's not it. I'm being flat out honest here. It is a little concerning the Jazz have done so well. More power to them, and congratulations. A sellout streak of I think more than 250 games, but that has kind of been the only big show in town. No disrespect to Real Salt Lake. And for a lot of years. And the Jazz, by the way, the New Orleans Jazz. Remember how the Utah Jazz became the Utah Jazz? They got taken, essentially, from New Orleans. But I think the size of the state, which is only 3 to 4 million, for all three leagues, we're not doing NFL yet, but I think you're pushing the boundaries. And again, you have a lot of the right things. You've probably got the right demographic of a fan base, but not the biggest one. You've got some corporations for sponsorships. You've got companies. You've got ownership groups. You've got public money. So you've got a lot of the right things. Can they host it? Sure. Can they sustain it? Time will tell. Time will absolutely tell. And I know some people will say, but we're hosting the Olympics again. We're probably going to host the Olympics again. And they've already done that in the early 2000s. I get it, but the Olympics are a one-off. The Olympics are in places that is so long as they have all the right venues and the infrastructure, they can do it. That's totally different than hosting 3 sports teams and all the events year after year after year. And I just want to say, we'll find out, interestingly enough, how it goes this next winter when you've got the NHL team and the Jazz going back-to-back nights, alternating nights. How does Salt Lake City do? That's head-on competition. If you're Ryan Smith and Ashley Smith, great, you own the 2 teams, but they're going to be competing for families' ticket money and dollar, and the hockey thing is going to have a honeymoon period to start. I get that. But at some point, they're going to compete with each other. I'll say it here in the Northern California Bay Area. When the Warriors are really good and the Sharks are really not good, such has been the case for the last few years, it's a hard competition for the Sharks to do well, attention and attendance-wise. And those are 2 teams separated by 60-plus miles now, about 60 miles. These are 2 teams playing in the same building, same smaller demographic. If there's 3 million people in the entire state of Utah, 3 or 4, there's 7 million people alone just in the Bay Area, not including Napa or Sacramento or Monterey or all the auxiliary areas, Stockton, the Central Valley. So I just think it's going to be interesting with Salt Lake City how they handle going from 1 to 2 and maybe someday 2 to 3. And I'm not counting. I just want to be clear. If you think differently of me now because I wasn't glowing about this, I just don't know. It is a question, and growing this fast, right? 1 to 2 to 3, within a couple years, that's pretty fast. The right way to do this is to be a little bit more patient, let your population grow, let the teams grow, let the sporting base grow. I think that's obvious. Am I rooting for Utah to get more teams? Okay, let's be very clear. Sure. I was never a big fan of a team relocating. And I'll say that, and I hope you all understand that. I am currently living that situation with the Oakland A's. Save that for a different video. My point is, I'll never be a fan. I never was, and I especially never am now, a fan of, we got to relocate because, we think this might work better. So in that sense, that's how Utah got the Jazz, and that's how Utah got the hockey club, the future Yeti. So I'm not a fan of the way it happens. Okay, that aside, of course I'm happy. Utah, the skyline and the mountainscape, it's beautiful. And it's in a place where I think the hockey team's going to get supported really well. If they ever do get baseball up there, probably going to be supported really well. So of course, I'm not against this one bit. How it happens is more important to me than if it happens, if that makes any sense. Did I get to all the questions? I think I did. All right. Wow, 14 minutes of 5 Utah questions. But again, I've been making so many Utah videos and I've been getting a lot of comments and this and that. And I thought, all right, let's eventually just try and address all of this at once and give it straight to you. So if you have any more questions, comment section down below. And since you made it here to the end of the video, I'd really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up down below. That'll help me, this video, and this channel. And you've probably seen me or all this before, which I appreciate. But if you haven't, let's make sure we can do it again. Go down there and hit that subscribe button right now so I can definitely see you back here next time.